Everyone talks about the same 5 calibers like they're the only tools worth owning. But if you look past the mainstream hype, there's a whole class of high-accuracy calibers collecting dust on gun racks. Ever wonder which forgotten hunting cartridges actually shoot better than the ones filling today's Instagram feeds? In this video, we'll talk about the top 13 most accurate hunting calibers and no one is using them. We're diving deep into cartridges that quietly hammer 5-shot groups into a thumbnail at 300 yards and still put meat on the ground with authority. You'll hear about magnum-class trajectories from mild-mannered classics, sub-MOA consistency from old-school rounds, and a few forgotten gems that flat-out embarrass their trendy rivals. You could be a handloader chasing that perfect node or a meat hunter looking for reliable accuracy. Either way, there's something here that'll shake up your short list. We'll go through the 6mm BR that turned benchrest into science, the 257 Weatherby that Roy swore by, the 280 Ackley Improved that gives magnums a run for their money, and 10 more that prove you don't need the newest label to shoot lights out. For years, internet forums have treated the Creedmoor like a fad. Yet every time I set one on sandbags, it prints ragged clusters that make other factory rifles look sloppy. A good barrel and match-grade 140-grain ELDM clocking 27-10 feet per second produces half-minute groups with vanilla handloads, and those sleek bullets carry a G1 BC of about .620. 0 at 200 and the drop at 500 is a hair past 47 inches, while drift in a 10-mile-per-hour crosswind stays under 18. You get the same trajectory as a 300 Win Mag firing 190-grain match pills, but recoil feels like a polite slap instead of a fist. The direct rival is still .308 Winchester. In equal-weight rifles, the Creedmoor yields about 30% less kick, 20% more retained velocity at 800 yards, and noticeably less vertical stringing as barrels heat. Folks claim the cartridge is slow on big game. That changes when you swap to the 143-grain ELDX. At 400 yards, the bullet still carries 1750 foot-pounds. Plenty of authority for elk with precise placement. If you want a modern cartridge that shoots flatter than Granddad's 30-06, yet sips powder like a lightweight, the Creedmoor remains an honest benchmark for practical accuracy. A century after Springfield Armory shipped the first M1903 rifles, the 30-06 still puts deer in the freezer and tight groups on paper. Pair a 178-grain Hornady ELDX with 57 grains of H4350, and many factory barrels will stay under 1 minute. Sometimes better if you bed the action. Muzzle velocity hovers around 2750 feet per second from a 24-inch tube. Sighted 3 inches high at 100, you can hold center on a whitetail to nearly 300 without touching a dial. Wind? 10 miles an hour moves that 178 about 19 inches at 500 yards, identical to a 165-grain 308, but the 06 still has 300 extra foot-pounds on arrival. The primary competitor today is 270 Winchester. The flatter path of a 145-grain 270 does look sexy. Yet the wider bullet selection of the 06 means you can load everything from 110-grain varmint pills to 220-grain bonded hammers for moose. When handloaders massage seating depth, single-digit SDs come easy because the roomy case delivers consistent ignition with several medium-slow powders. That forgiving nature keeps the 30-06 relevant for accuracy buffs who like to tune. Add a modern optic and a good trigger, and the old warhorse still prints tiny knots at distances where magnums once claimed exclusive rights. Despite being over a century old, it still evolves. Modern bonded and monolithic bullets make the 30-06 more versatile than ever, from bear country to bean fields. It has become more than a legacy round. It's now a precision tool. If the Creedmoor is the darling of 6.5 fans, 7mm 08 is its bigger bore cousin that never tries to hog the limelight, yet consistently wins matches and fills tags. A 162-grain Hornady ELDX at 2650 feet per second carries more frontal area and very nearly the same ballistic coefficient as the Creedmoor's sleekest pills. The mild case derived from 308 brass burns, 41 grains of Varget or H4350 for an SD you can count on. In my Tikka T3, a 10-shot string averaged .61 MOA once I settled on 20 thousandths off the lands. Recoil is shy of a factory 270, roughly 14 foot-pounds in a 7-pound rifle. So you watch bullets splash through the scope. Out to 500 yards, drop mirrors the Creedmoor, but energy is 200 foot-pounds higher. The cartridge's biggest rival is 6.5 Creedmoor. Advocates of each argue endlessly. Yet inside 700 yards, the difference is academic. Both fly flat and both kill clean. One advantage of 7mm 08 is heavy for caliber hunting bullets like the 175 grain AccuBond long range, which still starts at 2550 feet per second and beats many 30 caliber projectiles in BC while kicking less. This cartridge makes longer shots feel manageable without needing a 12-pound rifle or magnum training. When you factor in the vast range of bullet styles in 7mm, the 7mm 08 becomes more than just a mild shooter. It's a quiet contender for a true do-everything setup. Whether you're loading for a teenager or carrying a light mountain rifle, it delivers accuracy without drama. Hornady created the advanced rifle cartridge for a Department of Defense project, then quietly released it to civilians. Drop one into an AR-15 upper, and you suddenly own Creedmoor-like downrange figures in a package weighing under 8 pounds with glass. My 18-inch proof barrel groups 108 grain ELDM factory loads into 5/8 at 100. Those bullets launch at 2650 feet per second, going transonic past 1,200 yards, plenty of margin for coyotes and steel. Compare that to 77 grain 223. The ARC drifts 40% less at 600. Against 6.5 Grendel, the ARC shoots flatter and retains similar energy past 700 even though it starts lighter. Pressure for gas guns is kept to 52,000 psi, so brass life easily hits 10 cycles. In a bolt rifle, you can bump to 62,000, pushing the 103 grain ELDX past 2850, making a handy whitetail round to 400. Many hunters ignore the ARC because ammo shelves are thin, yet dies and brass are available, and the payoff is magazine-length, low-recoil accuracy that rivals cartridges a full-size class-up. Feed it decent glass, dial the turret, and those little 243 bullets land right where you call them. Don't let the tactical marketing fool you. The ARC thrives in the backcountry just as much as it does in competition. Bolt rifles built around it turn into featherweight tack drivers, perfect for hunting where you won't get a second shot. Roy Weatherby trusted this cartridge above all others when he chased mule deer on the high plains. Load a 110 grain Nosler AccuBond to 3,500 feet per second, and you get a 300-yard zero with only 8 inches of drop at 400, 15 at 500. That's point-and-squeeze simplicity. Despite the scorching speed, the 257 drives a high sectional density bullet that holds together. On pronghorn and deer, it often exits with surprising authority. Accuracy comes from the combination of speed and plenty of neck to hold the projectile straight. My Vanguard with a factory 26-inch barrel hovers around .75 MOA using Weatherby Select Plus, and sub-half MOA. Once I tuned Reloader 25 handloads, direct competitors include 25-06 Remington and 6.5 PRC. The Weatherby beats the 25-06 by 300 feet per second with same weight bullets and equals the PRC's trajectory while kicking noticeably less. Barrel life is shorter. Plan on about 1,800 rounds before groups spread. But very few hunters shoot that many animals between rebarrels. As for recoil, it surprises newcomers. A 257 Weatherby launches at magnum speeds, yet pushes back more like a 270. That tame shove encourages follow-through, and that's a quiet reason these rifles pile up small groups as well as game. Every time you hear that loud bark and see a tiny cloverleaf group at 300 yards, you're reminded why Roy Weatherby trusted it most. The flat trajectory saves time in the field. No dialing, no guessing, just hold and squeeze. It's one of those few rounds that earns loyalty fast. Developed when Queen Victoria was still on the throne, The Swede keeps proving that case shape and gentle pressures foster repeatable precision. Military M96 rifles built in the 1890s still print respectable groups, but a modern barrel transforms the cartridge into a laser. I run 46 grains of N560 under a 140 grain Berger 5LD seated long in a Kimber Hunter. Velocity averages 2,900 feet per second and repeatedly holds 5 shots inside .6 MOA. Recoil is a kittenish 12 foot-pounds, despite energy on target matching a hot-rodded 270. Scandinavians take moose every season at forest distances with basic 156 grain round noses, proof the Swede carries more authority than numbers imply. Compare it to 6.5 Creedmoor. The Swede has about 10% greater case capacity, so at equal pressures it runs 50 to 75 feet per second faster. Long actions and long throats let handloaders seat bullets way out, improving powder columns and jump. Factory ammo is still mild out of respect for ancient Krag-Jurgensens, yet premium loads from Norma, Lapua, and Hornady whisper half-inch groups in any half-decent rifle. Load development is a breeze because the Swede just seems to like most combinations. It rarely punishes errors and rewards careful assembly. In modern rifles, it becomes a graceful long-range round with pedigree, especially when you favor precise hits over brute force. If you like heritage wrapped in modern accuracy, the old 6.5 by 55 is waiting. Necking the 7 by 57 to quarter bore created a soft recoiling, flat-shooting whitetail round that Jack O'Connor praised for decades. Commercial ammo rarely breaks 3,000 feet per second, but reloaders breathe fresh life by stuffing a 110 grain ELDX over 48 grains of H4350 for 3050 from a 22-inch barrel. My rebarreled Model 70 featherweight prints that load into .7 MOA and turns inside-out coyote lungs at 350 yards. Effective reach is similar to 25.06, though using 5 grains less powder and producing a smaller fireball. The direct rival today is 6.5 Creedmoor, but the Roberts wins the recoil contest handily and still delivers markedly flatter trajectory out to 400. Part of the secret is Sami's conservative 54,000 psi ceiling. Modern actions can tolerate plus P loads at 58,000, which closes the gap on 25.06. Brass forms easily from common 257 Roberts or 7 by 57. Neck it down, bump the shoulder, and go. The round's gentle powder column and long neck promote concentric bullets, a recipe for tight holes. Hunters wanting an accurate classic that hammers deer without hammering shoulders should revisit the Bob. It may not win the velocity race, but it wins on a lot of things: balance, low recoil, flat arc, and excellent penetration with the right bullet. Few cartridges are as forgiving for new shooters while still holding enough juice to cleanly drop mid-size game at longer than average ranges. Parker Otto Ackley took the already efficient 280 Remington, blew the shoulder forward, opened body taper, and set the angle at 40 degrees. The result feeds slick in standard actions and gains roughly 120 feet per second free velocity. In my Savage 110 rebarrel, the 162 grain Hornady ELDX leaves at 3,040 feet per second over 63.2 grains of H4831 SC, producing 5-shot strings inside .5 MOA. That bullet carries 2,000 foot-pounds past 600 yards and drifts barely more than a 300-yard 0-300 Win Mag stoked with 190 grain Bergers. Compared to 7mm Rem Mag, the Ackley runs 50 to 80 feet per second slower, yet it burns 10 grains less powder and fits 4 in a flushbox magazine instead of 3. Recoil sits midway between 270 and 30.06, so shooting mats at long-range courses remain pleasant. Factory ammo from Nosler and Hornady finally takes guesswork out for non-handloaders. Both shoot near minute from average barrels. Necking down 30.06 brass makes cheap practice loads, and fire forming delivers cases that last 10 cycles because the steep shoulder check's stretching. There's something satisfying about loading a round that hits like a hammer but feeds as smoothly as your granddad's deer rifle. The Ackley Improved isn't trendy, but it doesn't need to be. Shooters who adopt it usually don't switch back. It simply performs. If you crave magnum reach without magnum hassle, the 280 AI might be your forever cartridge. Browning and Winchester wanted a short-action, big-game round that bridged 270 Win and 300 Win mag. They settled on a .277 caliber, 1-in-8 twist chamber, and 175 grain long-range AccuBond with a G1BC of .617. Expansion threshold is 1,800 feet per second. That Western bullet still beats that benchmark at 900 yards from a 24-inch barrel. I've seen X-Bolt rifles keep 3 rounds under an inch with factory 165 grain copper impact ammo. Muzzle velocity near 2970 feet per second means 20 inches of drop at 400 with a 200-yard zero. The rival 270 Win mag shoots faster, but the Western's heavy bullets cheat wind far better. Against 7mm Rem mag, the Western has slightly more frontal area and very similar energy, yet burns less powder and fits lighter rifles. Recoil registers close to 30.06 in identical weights thanks to efficient powder charges. Adaptive geometry in the case head helps brass survive repeated firings even at 65,000 psi. The Western bridges old-school meat-getter reliability with cutting-edge ballistic design. Every aspect, case, twist rate, bullet weight, was dialed in for consistency past 500 yards. That makes it a real contender for hunters who don't want to carry a magnum but want magnum-level performance. And with widely available components and growing factory support, the 6.8 Western is now a precision enthusiast's shortcut to long-range success. Benchrest shooters crown this cartridge the gold standard for raw precision. A typical 105 Grainberger hybrid launched at 2950 feet per second groups in the twos when a careful handloader pays attention. My Stiller Action 6BR with a 1-in-8 Krieger barrel regularly blows the center out of score targets at 300 yards. The combination of small rifle primer, moderate case volume, and steep shoulder yields mind-bending consistency. SDs of 5 are common. For hunting, that Berger retains nearly 1,200 foot-pounds at 500 yards, more punch than .243 shooting a 95 grain at the same distance. Wind drift is half an inch less at 400, compared with a 95 grain .243. Recoil manages 7 foot-pounds in an 8-pound rifle, making it perfect for fast follow-ups or youth shooters. Feeding in repeaters can be tricky because cartridges are short. AICS mags equipped with primal rights kits solve that, letting PRS competitors run 12-round stages without hiccups. Compared to 6 Dasher or 6 GT, the straight BR loses 50 to 80 feet per second, yet brass lasts longer and load data is everywhere. When absolute accuracy is the main goal, this cartridge shows how small things add up to precise shots in the field. The BR might be niche, but it never disappoints. Whether you're shooting steel, predators, or punching paper, it delivers surgical precision that shows up in your confidence. It's not just accurate, it's boringly repeatable, and that's where true accuracy lives. Paul Mauser's 1892 creation once humbled the British Army and later anchored African elephants under WDM. Bell. Modern loads transform it into a refined tool for game from roe deer to elk. A 150 grain Swift Sirocco at 2,800 feet per second from my CZ 550 carves 5-shot knots under an inch at 200 yards. That's half MOA on demand. Recoil sits at 12 foot-pounds, so you never fear the trigger. Traditional ammo is held to 46,000 psi out of respect for early rifles. But a Ruger, Mauser 98, or Winchester Model 70 digests 58,000 psi handloads happily. Those give 160 grain partitions a muzzle velocity of 2750 feet per second, matching 7mm 08 handloads with a longer neck that protects concentricity. Ballistically, the cartridge beats 308 for drift with high BC 160 grain bullets while retaining more sectional density on elk-sized animals. Cases stretch little because the slender profile feeds slick and doesn't slam shoulders as hard as .30 caliber brass. Its direct rival today is 7mm 08. The Mauser sacrifices short-action compatibility, yet repays with 70 additional grains of case capacity for reloaders who like to experiment. Classic looks, modern precision, and gentle manners combine into a cartridge that deserves renewed attention. Shoot the 7x57 once, and you'll feel like you've discovered a secret. It feeds smooth, hits hard, and seems to ignore wind. It may not have modern branding, but in terms of balance and real-world utility, few cartridges punch so far above their paper stats. Introduced in 1959, the 264 earned a barrel burner reputation, but treated right, it shoots flatter than many new hotshots. Stuff 140-grain Berger VLDs over 64 grains of H1000, and a 26-inch barrel delivers 3,200 feet per second with .6 MOA groups once throated correctly. Drop at 500 yards is 32 inches with a 200-yard zero, 6 inches less than 6.5 PRC and nearly identical to 300 PRC firing a 212 grain at 2950. Recoil, however, equals 7mm Rem mag firing 162s, roughly 19 foot-pounds. Barrel life hits 1,500 rounds if you water cool between strings. Hunters may never wear one out. The mag's Achilles heel is overall length. It demands a true long action to seat bullets near the lands. If you give it that room, powder columns burn uniformly and accuracy lights up. Compared with 6.5 PRC, the larger bore volume means higher velocities at equal pressures, though with more muzzle blast. Reloaders find node after node because the capacity pairs nicely with medium-slow powders like Reloader 26. Handloaders craving Creedmoor trajectory at magnum velocity should raid gun show racks for an old 264 and breathe new life into it. Norma squeezed 300 Win Mag performance into a shorter case way back in 1960. Today, the 308 Norma mag still propels 200-grain ELDX bullets to 2950 feet per second from a 24-inch tube, and clusters 3 shots at .8 MOA in my custom 98. That trajectory matches 300 Win Mag inside 800 yards while burning 4 grains less powder and fitting a standard action. Cases form easily from inexpensive 338 Win Mag brass, and Norma's factory offerings remain available. The cartridge beats 30.06 by 400 feet per second with 180 grain bullets, yet recoils only a hair more thanks to efficient case design. Compare it to 300 WSM, velocities tie, but the Norma mag feeds more reliably because the rebaited rim of the WSM can slip past bolt claws when dirty. Pressure sealing is a robust 64,000 psi. Brass life stays healthy because body taper releases from chambers without heavy bolt lift. Few hunters recognize the name anymore, which is exactly why rifles sell cheap on the used rack. If you want big game punch in a forgotten package that shoots like modern magnums, the 308 Norma mag offers accuracy mojo in spades without the boutique price tag. It's a round that makes you pause, not from recoil, but from sheer performance. It feeds clean, prints tight, and carries its weight with authority. And that's our rundown of the top 13 most accurate hunting calibers no one is using. Got a favorite from the list? Think one of these deserves more love? Or do you swear by another forgotten tack driver? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get the conversation going. And while you're at it, hit like, share this video with your hunting crew, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you tap that bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next.